The propaganda's a win, stress feeding on my tension. My countrymen, they love their fiction. Words upon now, it's made with good intentions.
Welcome to 1 to 200. We're doing politics, media, world events from down here in little old Aotearoa. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Pmax. How are you holding up in sunny Hamilton, overcast Hamilton? I don't know what the weather's like over there.
The sun is out, the hot air balloons are screaming through the sky, and it's just generally a beautiful day in the future capital of New Zealand, Hamilton.
Beautiful. Truly, we did need some Hope Punk introduced in these trying times. And we've got Ginny as well. How you doing, Ginny?
Great, but I will never move to the future capital of New Zealand. I would rather that Auckland secede than me do that. So,
Well, you may not have a choice. Also, a kind of hopeful extrapolation of what might happen with the city of Auckland. Just remove it from the rest of the country. Well done. So much has been happening once again. You know, we start so many podcasts saying that, and it's more true every time. How are we feeling about New Zealand's preparation for a global economic and oil shock?
bad.
Things aren't looking good.
So fucking bad.
I'm just
I
glad we've got
mean,
the economic managers in charge for this one.
well, okay, so I'm not an economic manager, even though I filed a lot of taxes for people that are terrible. I think news as of an hour ago, at least according to staff, not many other outlets, a company called Fitch Ratings, which basically provides global economic outlook information on various countries, has rated New Zealand's long-term credit rating on a negative outlook. We've been downgraded from stable. And apparently we are now heading towards a negative outlook because, and I'm quoting directly, substantial debt reduction is becoming more difficult to manage, and that the general government's debt to GDP ratio has increased substantially over the past few years as the economy has been buffeted by a number of shocks. But Nicola Willis, who is the true finance brain, the true finance Muad'Dib of this country, if you will, thinks that somehow this rating that we've been given is a good thing. She's of the opinion that this rating essentially shows that our tight-ass government apparently has created an advanced and wealthy economy,
What?
high governance standards, and has a robust policy framework, despite a worsening outlook in the short term.
Well, at least
So,
we've stacked up all this debt, but we've got a lot of stuff for it, right? That's been spent on infrastructure, it's been spent on bolstering public services, so it will have
mm,
returns, right?
totally. Yeah, I think we're definitely going to be doing so well when, as a country, all of this money that we've stockpiled somehow by not taxing the rich can save us all from the volatility of oil prices, right? Like we can inject that back into the government via infrastructure and make sure that New Zealanders are not vulnerable to the shocks of war and other crazy events happening in the world, and that we can help bring household debt down, right, guys? That's what we've been doing this whole time, right? Like we gave all the landlords cuts for this exact reason, right? Isn't that what's happening here?
Fantastic. Just glad to have him in charge, is all I've got to say on that. PMax, how's the outlook in Hamilton?
So, I might go for a more national scale
All right, if
reflection
you
on this.
must.
It's been, I would say it's been relatively clear that New Zealand as a whole requires more resilience, both in terms to response to like global economic shocks. Every time that the price for dairy drops by a single cent, you have like, okay, I'm not going to say something actionable, but there's a significant impact to the economy because of our like over dependence on these like tiny primary industries. I guess like, oh, I guess actually our dairy industry is pretty large on a global scale, but like, dairy, forestry, we somehow still try to make tourism work, although there's like, I don't know, national government seems to have this weird idea where they're like, what if we sabotage tourism for fun? Um, but I'm getting lost. I tend to think about things like well, we've got the ferry fiasco where the government has elected to spend 3 billion. I think you talked about it last week,
Yeah.
but government's elected to spend $3 billion that apparently extremely irresponsible amount of money to spend on like a worse system. You also got stuff like the roads of national significance, which if I'm looking at the latest update, are over budget by about $5 billion. They're looking to be about $56 billion for what appear to be mostly useless fucking roads. One has to think what could be different if that money was more wisely allocated to, say, wide-ranging public transport initiatives or poverty reduction, or health investment. I'm not even going to talk about education because people say I'm biased, but
That's the first thing I'd say.
it's just absolutely shocking to think that, well, no, it's not shocking. It makes a lot of sense because they went into the meeting room and they were like, okay, well, I'm good mates with the roading contractors. What can we do to give them money? Instead of thinking, how can we build a more resilient country? Although, given like what bald national prime ministers do when they're trying to build resilience in times of stress, maybe it's a good idea they weren't thinking big. That's kind of the general vibe there.
Yeah, it's I have no confidence, essentially. Even without a direct crisis, Willis, I was going to say and Luxon, but Luxon is kind of MIA for the last 3 years. Willis in particular has done this juggling act of trying to say, oh, we're in constant crisis because of the books that Labour left us, which is just ludicrous. Um, and also, we're doing everything right and things are great, even when the numbers put to her are just incorrect. And then if those numbers are put to her, she said, "Oh no, that's Labour's fault. We're still working through it, but everything's looking good." And you're like, "Okay, but no, it's not looking good." Oh no, 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 it is. Um, and it's just this
The Mott
absolute
and
lack.
Bailey.
Yeah, yeah, and there's this absolute lack of pressure applied by the political gallery to really hold her to anything she says. And I don't know how much that's cutting through to the public at this point. I think, the economic conditions certainly are, and that's why we've
Yeah.
started to see the polls move. But I still get the sense that people would consider National to be the better economic managers because they haven't been held to account over these very like clear, very specific, very numerous economic disasters that the National Party has applied through policy. They've got multiple, you mentioned it earlier, Ginny, policies that just transfer wealth to landlords, to farmers, or to big business. They've cut services to the most vulnerable constantly, like a huge range of social murder policies that
Hmm.
literally will have led to deaths over the last 3 years. Although they removed all the reporting functions that could have tracked those for us. Health and education, two of the most important things to New Zealanders and, to a functioning society, have been absolutely hollowed out with an eye to privatization, although that too has not been really investigated or had
Questioned.
pressure applied. This is a generationally bad government, and I said it at the outset, but if we make it through this, we'll be looking back on these guys as being equivalent to the Labour National double hit in the 80s and early 90s, Brogenomics into euthanasia. Especially I'll do the education thing on your behalf, Pmax, but especially the damage to the education sector.
Hmm.
That has a really long tail, where
Well, I think a lot of people still don't really acknowledge the damage those changes made. It's just accepted as status quo now. I mean, like, quick segue, but Erica Stanford this week just announced an updated reporting system for ERO. Real estate agents were getting a bit sad that deciles had been removed. So now school's going to be rated on like a 14-point color coding system where, you get to find out exactly in which areas your school is shit. I really hope, I doubt, because obviously this is nationals government, I really hope there's like a cultural competency element to that, because then there's going to be some schools scoring really high and some schools that people will expect to be, green or blue or whatever the best color is across the board, but I doubt it. Uh, And yeah, just this idea of like promoting competition in education, which should really make you take a step back and question like what the point of education is. Like competition shouldn't, like inter-school competition just shouldn't really be a thing. Why have schools fight each other when they can work together to improve the education outcomes for everyone? Another program that National scrapped, the Kahuiako systems, which allowed schools to develop unique and unified community-based pedagogical pathways forward. And to echo your points earlier about how unprepared this government seems, I feel like if there was not the war in Iran, and I'm pretty sure they're probably repeating this mantra to themselves, they'd just be remembered as a, part of a decline. We look back on, the governments of the 80s, and, they definitely had a lot of problems and a lot of open corruption, but they also had a really robust government and bureaucracy and systems and norms to backstop everything they were doing. This latest administration, and we honestly can't let the what was it, the previous Labour government, Ardern's Labour, off the hook for this, is has started with a New Zealand that was already pretty cracked and has just gone full bore on beating it to shit. And now with the Iran war coming along, there's not a there's no airbag anymore. We're going down the highway at 110. Airbag's not installed. ABS is off. Wheels are bald. The rain's falling down. And at the moment, honestly, National just seems to be hoping that this is a straight road forever and then they can tag out for Labour in the shotgun seat before the corner comes. Sorry for the weird metaphor there. I was still thinking about the roads of national significance.
Lucky we have those to be hurtling down, honestly.
Well, they're not even built yet.
In the future.
We've just put like $50 billion aside for them. For a, 100-kilometer road in Northland, a tunnel that no one in Wellington wants.
Yeah, the economic outlook isn't looking great. Essentially, I think, is the conclusion that any person with an ounce of critical analysis would have come to looking at the global situation and the inability of the National Coalition government to do anything effectively other than corruption, um, which they're really, really good at, by the way, and completely unchallenged on. The other thing I want to talk about in regards to the US-Israel war on Iran, though, is I guess, the geopolitical response of national and I guess the wider discourse around that. Because although the support hasn't been as full-throated as, say, Australia, or even Canada, we haven't immediately jumped and decided we're going to send two ships or something, or some support personnel over to the Strait of Hormuz. There are murmurings and there is like discourse building through media channels predominantly that seems to be trying to tie us more closely in with the US military industrial complex as a key part in I guess, the imperialist project, which has me pretty concerned because you tend not to see this kind of direct via media lobbying, unless there are power brokers that are trying to make the discourse, make the narratives a little easier for them when they make the announcement. And I'm looking at a couple of things. We've talked about the risks, even under Ardern, of this term interoperability that kept being rolled out in regards to our defense spending. No one should want to be interoperable with the US at this moment, and it was really predictable that we were going to reach this moment, 6 or 7, 10 years ago, because Trump had already been a president by then. It ties us directly into a fascist empire, right? That is doing illegal wars, openly doing war crimes, bragging about them, essentially, via global media. Thinking about Pete Hegseth making some really foul, illegal comments almost every day at this point. Trump doing similarly. The Israelis just all the time, forever. Although it just gets covered less unless you're reading Israeli newspapers, where they just love to pop off about how many children they've killed. I'm not even kidding. It's fucked. But we've got this secondary layer of, I guess, business people who just want a bite of that defense spending. I should say Department of War spending now, though, shouldn't I? We had the Rocket Lab, I guess, deal this week, and or anyone like critique of this and say, oh, they're actually a US company. Yeah, they're based here, and Peter Beck's face is on this story to help with the launch of hypersonic missiles. Picking up direct Department of War funding. That's hard. That's you're going to the Hague. Like that, you are directly implicated in massive war crimes. I'm sorry, you are. Like that's just it. You've got what is it? Sios Technologies, the little good old little number 8 wire drone manufacturer down in Mount Maunganui. This is what's his fucking name? Sam Vai, the CEO. Yeah. In a newsroom piece just at the beginning of March, said Vi acknowledges there are those who oppose New Zealand manufacturing and exporting military technology. No shit. He says, I guess those are the same people that are disappointed when defense budgets are increased. Look, it's a changing world at the minute. You're right. I am disappointed when defense budgets increase because it's pretty indicative of things that are happening in the world that are bad. These people are just nasty, rampant military like funding capitalists trying to suck up what is it, taxpayer money to make things that kill people as part of a machine via the US and its allies that is doing that for very fascistic reasons. And I think the other thing we always have to keep in mind with this stuff as the state of the world progresses, because this is not really regional. The US isn't part of West Asia. This is already extra regional. How does this play into Pacific theater stuff? How does this play into New Zealand being like the offsider for Australia in a Pacific War?
Mm.
And that's basically what some of these people are trying to set up, is ensure that we are the home base for US force projection in the Pacific to a much greater extent than we are currently.
Yeah, I think it's this weird like anti-argument they make where they're like, we live in a really unstable world and we need to spend more on strengthening our military. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like I can see an argument for that, I guess. And then they're like, and so we're going to buy and invest in interoperability with the United States, which is completely contradictory to the former statement. United States military equipment has been shown to basically not work if America doesn't want it to work. It's not defense spending, it's putting yourself into a protection racket, which might sound like a great idea, but as we've just seen in South Korea, the second the United States decides that somewhere else is more worth playing around in, they will just remove their deployed technology. Outside of Israel, South Korea is potentially one of the most likely targets of ballistic missiles outside of the genocide state. And to be fair, that's probably a really big downgrade. I guess you've got like all the Gulf states, but as we've seen, the United States hardly considers them allies. I guess South Korea is probably in the same boat. And yeah, the United States just unilaterally took them all away, took away all the THAAD systems, leaving them effectively at the mercy of our dear leader. And I want to clarify, I am not speaking in a negative way. I am a supporter of Juche ideology, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to get banned from Pyongyang or whatever. Sorry, kind of.
Manhattan, whatever they're calling it, the Manhattan of North Korea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, but yeah, and then you've got other incidences like when the Taliban tried to repurpose all the US tech that had been left behind. It was all functionally useless. And I guess there's an argument that the change was made because there was that really embarrassing scenario where ISIS got hold of a bunch of US tech and used it to steamroll over parts of Syria.
Oh yeah, so embarrassing, not intentional at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, wonder why their stuff worked. But like, if we want to defend New Zealand from threats, The biggest threat to New Zealand's national security at the moment is being pulled into a war by the United States of America.
I mean, other than climate change, right?
Yeah, other than
Mm.
climate change, but yeah, it's just kind of absolutely ludicrous. And then it's like, okay, well, what countries can actually access New Zealand? Like, which countries actually have the force projection to be able to reach New Zealand? It's just America. Sure, China could post a couple of boats outside of us, but the supply
Australia's made
lines,
a couple of swings at us over the last couple of years.
yeah, fair enough. If Albo was a human, I'd call it a liberation, but unfortunately, he's failed that test. Yeah, it's just a ludicrous situation where we're paying America to protect us from it, so it can get aggressive towards our number one trading partner. It's suicidal politics.
I think the bit that I'm struggling with as well is not just that we're paying exorbitant amounts of money, essentially to, I think what, 60% of our new orders for military equipment are all from the United States, to the point where they were like, have a fast track lane for like buying military products from us. You're like our priority partner now. Like it's like an airport lounge pass. You know what I mean? I think the thing that sort of worries me is that while we have visibility over the numbers for contracts when it comes to things like the helicopters that we're trying to purchase, which I think what the value of those is, the tag on that is over $2 billion or something, or like the planes that we're trying to upgrade to, we've got price tags on those things. We don't have price tags on some of the other spending that's associated with those US partnerships in the military. So, for example, we don't have any price tag on them doubling any defense expenditure with regards to cybersecurity, right? Like we don't know what the figure is on that, so we can't really see what the shape of that looks like. And like all of these Rocket Lab contracts that they've entered into with the United with the DOW at this point, we've got price tags for all of the actual physical equipment. We don't have price tags for when articles say things like this amount for the rockets and any leftover will be put towards AI spending or put behind AI spending. Like, what do these words actually functionally mean for the apparatus of US war? I think we can guess now because we've seen which companies have contracts with the DOW, and we've seen exactly how people are, I don't know, using fucking Claude Cowork to bomb a civilian's house. But I think the problem with us seeing all these examples in the US media right now is that we've signed up for those exact same deals. Like we've said, here, have all this money. Thanks. Please give us some helicopters. And also you can have more money for cyber stuff, for AI stuff. What does that look like? I don't even know if our government actually knows, is what I'm worried about. I don't know if we know what we've actually signed up for or what we've signed up to actually enable or acquire in the nebulous cybersecurity and AI realm. And that's the thing which really worries me.
Well, this goes hand in hand as well with surveillance creep, which we've been seeing accelerate over the last couple of years too. And there's just some reporting that came out, I think, this week, which showed that Meta was behind but they're calling it like age gating, right? Like under
Mm-hmm.
16 protection racket,
Correct.
which turns out it's actually about uh, digital ID stuff, which is, and if it's being pushed by the big technology companies, which are connected directly to, the US state apparatus, it's about surveillance first and foremost. It is you, we can see what you're doing at all times. And turns out a bunch of these supposedly grassroots, incredibly corporatized, like this is one of those obvious astroturfs in fucking history. All the little parents groups that have popped up suddenly with like millions of dollars in funding to directly lobby the government to protect our kids online and enforce a under 16 social media ban are like differently funded, connected to this PR apparatus out of the big tech
Mm.
companies. And it's just, why do they even bother at this stage? Just brute force it. You're doing it with everything else. It's so embarrassing.
Mm.
Jenny, you've been following this probably a little bit closer than I have.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think I brought it up on the cast last year, when they announced that New Zealand was essentially considering digital IDs. I think it was like probably the second half of last year, because it was around when Keir Starmer, may his house forever burn in hell, announced that people in the UK would need digital ID to actually work legally, which to me is like, okay, yeah, insanity, that's fine, whatever. Things are going crazy over there. And then I think around the time, the discourse was being supported by lots of American commentators. I find, as you say, like these parents groups were like, oh my God, protect the kids. I was like, okay, so why is every commentator on this topic someone who starts an anecdote about using digital ID with, for example, when I flew out of New York a couple nights ago, I didn't have to present my passport or open it at the gate. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So the tenor of this argument was sort of already there. Um, and I found it really insidious that when we sought comment here in New Zealand, we talked to, I don't know, senior partners at Russell McVeigh, obviously, one of the most morally upstanding law firms in the country. And they would say things like, there are no legal issues. There are no legal issues. And I'm like, okay, but I think that these parents groups are not concerned about legal issues. What about safety? What about ID theft? What about cyber attacking? And if you remember sort of H2 last year, we had all this scaremongering around Chinese hackers, right? And things like that. And I was like,
Chinese
these are
affiliated hackers.
impossible. These are impossible discourses for the same person to hold at the same time in the same brain. How can we be like, oh, the Chinese hackers breathing our air, and then be like, identity theft? That's not a big deal. Like, our government systems are completely secure. It's definitely not an erosion of rights or privacy. We literally had a commentator say, I think everything is an erosion of privacy. Okay, yeah, I believe that. Sure, whatever. Like, and our privacy commissioner couldn't even give comment. He refused to be interviewed. So I think that should tell you, I think, about the state of how potentially the average New Zealander might react to the idea of digital ID. And for those who are not really entirely certain how that was going to work, I'll give you a really quick rundown. They've made a government, a gov.nz app. Okay, and at its core, this is a digital wallet. Okay, so like you have Apple Pay and stuff. I'm waving my phone around, no one can see me, but it's like Apple Pay. You have Apple Pay, but your Apple Pay will store currently, Apple Pay can store like boarding passes, it can store credit cards, so you can store your driver's license, other forms of photo ID, so like probably like a scan of your passport or something. And I guess the point of this, or one of the main benefits of this, mentioned in this stuff article from a couple days ago, is that when people are behind the wheel or buying alcohol, they won't have to present their physical ID.
It's so frustrating to me the way that, our journalists are just so brought in to be the PR for this, right? Like this massive privacy issue is being sold as a convenience. Like they
Yeah,
should be setting red flags waving immediately.
absolutely. And the
Oh, it
problem
should
with
be.
this,
Oh, it
hmm?
should be setting red flags waving over the beehive.
Legs waving over the P. And I think in this media storm, I guess, people being incredulous about this, I think they've missed sort of the fine print point, or my personal problem with this government ID issue is that while there's an app, and I think the app is, unlike our esteemed legal scholars at Russell McVeigh, I think it is actually an invasion of privacy and an erosion of your own human rights. People are not talking about the fact that there's going to be a thing which launches at the same time in parallel called the government issuance platform. What is this, you might ask me? Well, this will enable all government agencies, undefined, by the way, we haven't said which exact ones, but all government agencies, so potentially government adjacent or aligned, to issue digital credentials directly to your wallets. They can put stuff in the wallet associated with your personal information and your rights. Let's think, let's reflect. Okay, let's reflect a little bit as a pod about the dire situation happening with ICE in the US. Okay? Things like people missing papers, people having the wrong documents attributed to them, people having their visa status questioned, documents removed, documents put in, things shifted around that affect their legal status directly. The government is saying, move everything that can identify you into a digital platform that we can inject material into. Does that does that not sound crazy? Am I the only person that's weirded out by that?
That's
No one's
evil.
talking about this, but it's deeply evil.
Like,
It's
Yeah.
deeply, deeply evil.
a really quick like jump from current day is, and this could happen in the US right now if they had this system. They just put a little black mark on your digital ID. I just
Mm,
fucking take you. Bye.
mm.
Like it's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's so easy if the apparatus is there, right? And there's no reason to
Mm-hmm.
believe that. In fact, there's good reason to believe that we are heading towards closer alignment with the US, and particularly with the fascist policies that they've been rolling out, right? And the structures they've been building to support authoritarianism at a centralized level under Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
just in the last couple of weeks as well, we've had this MBIE change, which just allows immigration officers to profile people as possibly being overstayers. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is ICE. That is New Zealand ICE. Like I really
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have
The
to emphasize this so strongly. That is essentially what that is creating. Maybe not like immediately. Maybe we don't have that kind of level of white nationalist infiltration, I should say, overt white nationalist infiltration in the immigration office just yet. But it's essentially how we set up to be there within a couple of years,
I think the
should it occur.
I think the problem with like characterizing a New Zealand ICE is there's just like not enough immigrants to target. Um, because everyone's trying to get the fuck out of the
No, but it doesn't
country.
have to be immigrants. It has to be someone they
Yeah,
think is an immigrant, right?
yeah. Oh, I understand. I was gonna jump in and say regarding the like digital ID, like this one wallet digital ID that's also linked to your like internet presence.
Mm-hmm.
I think that opens up the possibility for some really advanced forms of blackmail, especially
Mm-hmm.
depending on what government or government affiliated agencies get access to it. Because as you know, as we're seeing across the world, like online privacy is getting eroded over and over and sometimes being used for like some really bad faith attacks. Mum Dani's wife, as an example, was
Mm-hmm.
already
Yeah,
under the pump from her husband. Um,
little shit.
when
Mm-hmm.
someone dived through her tweets, found a tweet from when I think she was about 13 years old. Cringe tweet, but who wasn't being cringe online when they were 13 years old? And using that as the basis for a whole smear campaign. And that's like a relatively innocent example as compared to people potentially being able to like look into your fucking, I don't know, like depending on what agencies they have access to, but like your criminal or medical records,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but also like being able to oversee your online networks, your safe spaces, and all that kind of thing, and then just yeah, ruining your life or threatening to do so in exchange for
Compliance.
information or compliance. Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you think about some of the things that are already asked of people to provide to ministries like immigration, some of it's really like private material as well, not necessarily compromising, but they'll ask for some really perverse stuff to prove a relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like text message conversations, I think pictures sometimes. There's a lot of private information tied up in our current interactions with the government. Is this all just going to be accessible? And we've already had multiple issues just this year with Ministry of Health contracts for software. I'm thinking Manage My Health was the big one, right?
That's the
Where
one.
the
Yeah.
data just gets fucking ripped because this isn't even in a case where it's intentional. This is just it was made badly. This is just like
Mm-hmm.
it was not secure. And we've just had that happen again with Health and Z, with the latest flaw found in their AI chatbot.
Mm-hmm. Heidi House. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things which I think when people talk about breaches, and at least in our cybersecurity history, it always sort of comes up when you have like the management health breach, something that was poorly built. And then when it comes to Heidi Health, what is basically, sorry, the company that provided the chatbot, what is basically like an AI startup. Like that's what it is, right? Like Heidi Health is not at its core like a company which is built on the backs of doctors. You know what I mean? Like it's not a company which really has sort of any sort of vested interest in things like providing a real medical service. If you go on their website, look at their product, they're like, oh yes, this bot can scribe for you. That's what this is supposed to do. Um, and what I find very difficult is just there's almost this, how do I say? blissful ignorance from a lot of people in the acquisition space for things like government contracts, who are just unwilling, perhaps, or unable to see the risks that are posed by delegating everything to an AI SaaS business. Like, we talk about, I know that there are health board hospitals right now using AI transcription software. The name of it currently escapes me. It's not Heidi Health, but it's something even worse. And it is all just another reskin of an AI SaaS product. And while Simeon Brown, bless his tiny baby
Don't
face,
bless him. Don't bless him.
okay, curse his tiny baby
That's
face.
right.
I just remember how gleeful he was when he was like, "Oh yeah, like so great that we've got this AI chatbot now. It's gonna be like such a great thing for the profession." Simeon Brown, the guy spitting on the rights of nurses and doctors, is like, "Ooh, great! This is our like silver bullet to solve the healthcare crisis." Well, actually, it's fucking not, because the details of this hack, in case you weren't aware, this chatbot, which currently lives in every single emergency room in this country, okay, can A, be jailbroken. You're like, oh, what's the big deal about that? Maybe every app can be jailbroken. Yeah, sure. This app, right, can give instructions on how to A, manufacture substances. Okay, a little bit worse. Okay, yeah. But the ringer, the kicker for me, can give instructions on how to steal a patient's identity.
Why?
What the fuck?
So everything I've just talked about, that we've all just talked about collectively, about the dangers of and the erosion of your own privacy, your data rights, and how dangerous it is to have your information in a cloud somewhere that the government can access. You've got government-enabled, government-endorsed AI chatbots ensuring that if someone really wanted to, they could probably steal your fucking identity. And this is pre all the measures we just discussed that would make all the information accessible in one singular digital repository.
You know,
So,
I say it every week because every week there is a scandal from a minister in New Zealand's government that under any other government would have had them at the very least lose their cabinet portfolios. And this is another one of those. Like Simeon Brown should just be gone. Like that is a huge. It's I can't like when was the last health scandal not in this government like that has this kind of potential magnitude? Like confected ones around COVID, maybe.
can't think of it. Can't fucking think of it. So,
But it's just the frequency of it, right? It's just become a normal. You're just like, oh, there's going to be a big fuck up by National.
Well,
And
last week it was, you mentioned Erica Stanford's like just before, and I did as well around the MBIE stuff. It was her just lying about immigration numbers because, as you say, Pmax, there aren't enough. The numbers don't legitimize the policy.
yeah,
She just
it,
lied about the number of overstayers by
but
10,000.
yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it's a deliberate strategy by National or just something that they've been molded by the government that they're in. Unfortunately, I do think it's meant that I think that maybe the left parties are now considering that, oh, all we have to do is go in and do responsible governance, and then everyone will know what responsible governance will look like, and we'll get voted in again. Which might explain why none of them are putting out any particularly powerful messaging at this point. I mean, okay, maybe I shouldn't talk, whatever. I went on to like Blue Ski, the Green Party Blue Ski account tweets once a week. Like, pay pay if there is anyone in the Green Party listening, please pay your social media person more to post on Blue Sky, please.
Yeah, and like very, very legitimate reasons for doing that, right? It's probably the most centralized group of progressive, let's say, media and commentators on social media in the country, for people who would actually get stuff done, since they all migrated from Twitter. There's just no reason not to
yeah.
have a consistent presence there.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
there's so
the
much to
Opportunity
comment
Party is
on.
posting.
Sorry,
They're
Ginny.
posting daily. Sorry, I was to say the Opportunity Party is posting daily.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
We gotta get on this. They're
Trust the
making social
plan,
media
Q.
graphics. They're cropping their own graphics from Instagram. I can see because some of them have like a little circle that comes up of someone's image when they've liked a post on Instagram. They're cropping their own other social media images and posting those. But
Efficient.
at least they're fucking posting. Okay? And that's something in this current social media economy. It's something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't super rate social media for starters, to be honest. But like, you have to like, you do want to be connected to it, right? Like, if it turns out the Greens are just like, okay, we're putting all that money into door knocking, everything, we're going to door knock 2 million houses. All good, all good.
Mm.
But yeah, as you say, like, I mean, Labour has been MIA since the 2023 campaign. The best Hipkins could muster was, I'm going to burn all these policies that people like. But it
Well,
has been disappointing to see that the Greens still aren't really quite getting that cut through.
and it's like if you're going to follow a politics of positivity, show it, like live it a bit more, I guess. And I don't have a particularly well curated social media feed, and I kind of like it that way because I get like a weird spread of like largely thanks to my interests. I've got a weird spread especially when I'm on Facebook. Oh my God, weird spread of like left and right media. And I do follow a few of the left-wing parties, but it just didn't. Maybe this is more the algorithm. Maybe I'm like showing my own ass here. But yeah, I would like to hear more. My ears are open. I want to hear what the plan is. I want to get involved. I want to change things and make this country a better place. Um, am I actively seeking groups that are doing it? No, because I'm really fucking busy. But if I see something pop up somewhere, a friend sends me a message about it, I'm all in.
I think that's a normal experience of people in New Zealand, though, right? Being really fucking busy.
Yeah.
Um, like it
Shout out to
is.
the 1 out of 200 newsletter, by the way.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, getting all the gigs in the 1 or 200 newsletter. You can see what petitions you can put your name on. You can see what activations, protests, etc., talks. You can join that are progressive in nature. They're all there. All the ones that we've been handed over are there in our newsletter every week. So you can turn up to those.
If you're
Um,
organizing something, let us know.
that's correct. Yeah, we can't just be sending out emails and say, "Oh yeah, please vote for us," right? Like, "Oh, we've got to change the government, just please vote." It's not. We're so far past that. The last topic for the day is like indicative of why this is the case. Because we've been talking about the National Coalition, but it's the coalition partners, New Zealand First and ACT, that are getting all their stuff across the line, and most of it is, I'd say 100% of it actually is just brutally corrupt. It's clearly like return policy for a donation. And the big one this week, again, these happen every week, is Shane Jones removing the minimum fish length, which is just like let's kill all our fish. That's what that is
It
saying,
is
by the
it
way.
is
Let's kill all
con
the fish.
it's consistent with coalition policy in that their overarching theme is fuck the kids.
Yeah,
They've just moved on to fish kids now.
incredible breadth of social murder policy from these fuckers. But that's how they're operating, right? Like you were saying, Pmax, like they were like, oh, we're just going to get in and do responsible government. That's not okay. Like that's not what's that going to do in this in this like
Yeah.
environment? Like, are you going to immediately reverse the fishing rules, or
They
is it too irresponsible to move that under urgency?
Yeah, the electoral left, sooner or later, preferably sooner because like the election's on the horizon, needs to come out and say, we're gonna do 50 days. Because wait, when is the election? Like November?
Yeah, November 7th, I
Yeah, they
believe.
honestly get in there, say we're not doing Christmas. We're legislating through summer and we're gonna undo everything. And in cases like pay equity, retroactive reinstatement. So don't just because I'm pretty sure what Cheeky Chris wants to do is get in and then put back the old legislation in place, but force every union to make a fresh new application on the hopes that, it's a one-term Labour government, the National can get in and can it again. Because it's not consistent with his historic behaviour, which has been trying to keep as much money out of public workers' money as much money out of public workers' pockets as possible. Bit of a tongue twister there. I just don't feel like at the moment he's going to come back in and be like, cool, that like, getting personal again, the secondary teachers claim that was like less than a year out from resolving. We're going to reinstate that, and we're going to allow you to reuse all of the interviews and research and work that had been done over however many years it was, like several years. Yeah, I do think we're going to have, okay, well, we're going to do an impact statement on the possibilities of reversing the pay equity change. And then we're going to go through 8 select committees. We're going to redraft the law. Oh, it's election time already. Vote for
Whoops.
us. Vote for
Well, the
us, and we'll
review's
pass
right
the
there. Yeah.
legislation.
If you want us to action it, you know who to vote for. It's
Yeah,
so
so cynical.
it's so cynical. And this is the thing, right? Labour do a review and they don't want to actually act. I think this is an established policy pattern. And the Greens do a review because they think that's responsible government and they haven't understood how power works. It's just put something on the line. And because but this is going to be one of the lowest voter turnouts of all time, unless people have something that they believe gives them some optimism, gives them some hope. And that's you can't just be toxically positive about that. You can't just say, "Oh no, we're going to do it, folks. Just get out and vote. Give us $20, and we're going to do the things." You have to show now, or you have to have shown for the last 3 years, like, but next best time is now that you have teeth. That you have to put something right on the line and just say, like, if you're Labour, you say we're going to do this in the next 50 days, right? As soon as we're elected, next 50 days, we're going to overturn this incredibly damaging policy. And for stuff like the fishing minimums, like hunting and fishing and other like amateur groups like that, other lobby groups that are often like going with ACT or with National are mad at the government about this shit. And there's a whole range of policies like that this year, like some of the gun stuff as well, where these often like quite far right or right wing libertarian groups are like, what the fuck is the government doing? They are against this shit. And then if you're the Greens, you say, we're not going to go into government with Labour unless they fucking do what we say. Like, we've given
Yeah.
them fair warning of that. If they then
Learn
choose not to, and the government collapses after the election, that's on them for not doing a bare minimum to make things better for New Zealanders. Because there's a huge amount within that bare minimum.
Yeah, learn the lesson from the current coalition. Because I guess the established wisdom was it's like, oh, Winnie's the kingmaker, Winnie's always going to get what he wants.
I mean, it's brute force by the media every single year for the last 30 years, right?
And then the other minor coalition partner will just kind of have to suck eggs. And that's what, the Greens were extremely happy to do to a slavish degree in the last series of governments. Where, James Shaw, leader of the party, was just happy to eat shit on Labour's behalf time and time again.
I mean, James Saw basically created the budget responsibility rules that tied the Labour government to austerity. So let's.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But it's like he did that and he ate shit time and time again for no reason at all. It's just like an omni failure. But no, like this coalition government has proven that no, you really can just put the government over the barrel and you can get more than you demanded, more than you asked for. You can just keep winning and winning and winning over and over and over.
I think the major issue with the strategy, and but there are ways around this, is that National actually loves this shit. Whereas
Yeah,
Labour is so against progressive policy at this stage.
yeah,
Like, catch Labour doing something that isn't neoliberal, right? Unlikely. You actually have to um, put the pressure on. Whereas National's like, hey, yeah, we've actually got a really extremist evangelist in the health portfolio right now. Yeah, we're gonna fuck things up. Love it, and we're gonna blame it on you. Cool, and then
yeah.
all of us look good. Cool. That's been another week, I guess. Anything else to add there, Jenny?
Probably not. It's just, well, okay, I have my spidey senses have been tingling in a very unsettling way recently, around pretty much everything that's come out of the US and the wider global discourse around cybercrime recently. And so I feel like I'm stressed about like a potential major global cyber incident in the next couple weeks. So maybe just think about that. Think about that and then watch the discourse as it currently unfolds around the government ID digital wallet and what we've talked about today, and then maybe try and form your own opinions outside of mainstream media about the dangers that this might pose to you as an individual and your individual liberty.
Fun.
Yay.
How about you, Pmax? Any final thoughts?
I just wanted to quickly run through a couple of Iran updates that are relatively recent. One of them is extremely funny, and it's that the United States is considering unsanctioning Iran so they can buy their oil, which, what an absolute crown for Iran at this point. Like, like what's the next stage of humiliation after this? And the second one is that apparently there's more movement on those Marines going to Iran, which I think could be a big watershed moment for quite a lot of reasons that I won't get into now, but it's just a space to watch.
Wonderful. And I'll tie it up. We've got some cool events coming up. Like there is stuff out there. There are groups doing cool shit that you can get involved in. Um, there is a Hands Off Cuba public meeting next Friday at the Greyland Trades Hall in Auckland. There's a whole range of free community meal stuff which are popping up as well. Next Sunday, 29th of March, there's a the Move On Orders public gathering to protest the government's absolutely anti-human, anti-homeless policies that they're looking to install around Auckland and probably the rest of the country. And you can catch all of those on the Common Sense newsletter, where we're trying to get them out as far as possible when those dates are given to us. So you can have a look at them and say, hey, look, there's 2 or 3 things there over the next month or so, which I'd be interested in attending. I think I'll go to that one and meet people, have some food with people, connect across the community, because there are a lot of people out there who do understand the things that we've been talking about today on the podcast, who do understand they're in a bad spot and they actually need to do something. They need to apply pressure, and they're trying to find ways to organize and do that. So click on the link, I'll put it into the summary, and you can go through the week's roundup of stories and commentary and have a look at some of those events. That's been another episode of 1 of 200. Thank you again to my co-hosts, and we'll catch you later.
If artifice is art, then I'm living a pointless life, but I'm learning all your lessons. Fucking politics, there's no distinction. The road's upon now. It's paved with good intentions, and I'll admit that I'm at a loss for what to say when they quote this as a cost we ought to stay. 'Cause I live amongst the people every day. This vindictive, forgetful fucking